Hey, yo.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
Can I have the phone?
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
There we go.
Fucking A. It was
I
my
couldn't hear
country
anything,
case.
so I logged out and then got back in and
All good, man. Don't even worry about it. I feel like it was my fault. Anyways, also with me and with us, the 6'10 beast from the southeast, Mr. Country K.
I ain't scared of you, motherfucker.
And so, Caleb,
yes.
F1 talk. Let's talk about it. Lewis
Okay.
Hamilton, Mercedes, 1 and 2 in practice today.
Gotcha. I didn't get a chance to see practice today. It's been a long day.
Max came in 6th.
Okay, that's not it's first. It's the first free practice, and we're in Canada. So I think Red Bull will be fine. Where was Perez at?
Shit, I don't even know. I just know it said Max was in 10th. George Russell was kind of downplaying what Lewis did. You know, there was a quick split and stuff like that when they came in and said George Russell said, I don't think we can read too much into the timings. We did our low fuel qualifying prep towards the end of the session when the track was quicker.
Yeah.
So
They're probably just on a different strategy. They wanted to see what they could do. And unfortunately, that's probably the best that they can do. And they're going to get smoked. If anything, if that's what they were strategizing, trying to see, they might drop a couple tenths of a second, maybe a couple seconds.
right.
But I don't believe. I think Max was probably just on a different strategy doesn't matter. So
I guess after this whole thing, people are starting to think, will Max's dominance continue in Canada?
yeah,
There's the question.
yeah, it will.
I believe it does plan to rain again for qualifying tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Which obviously doesn't make make things easier for anybody, but when practice runs are just that, practice runs, so it doesn't necessarily mean too much.
Yeah,
but it does give a decent indication on how the weekend could possibly play out. So when I see Lewis coming in and doing good work in the practice runs and everything and putting up good times,
yeah.
especially after the upgrade they just put into their car.
I love how they did away with the zero pods. Loving that.
So it makes me think, is there at all a possibility Lewis can maybe pull a rabbit out of the hat this race.
I don't know. I don't imagine so. The Red Bull's just too quick. And for Canada being what it is, I mean, it's kind of a Red Bull track, at least for this year's car.
Are we sure about that? Because in practice, again, neither Perez or Max were in there.
That's okay.
It was Hamilton, Russell, Sainz, Alonso, Leclerc.
Was that free practice 1 or 2?
Final.
Okay, but
2.
Free practice 1 or 2?
I think it was 2.
Okay, and then what was 1 like?
It's. Hold on, let me pull up because it just shows here the practice 2 finals. So let me pull up the full results real quick right here.
Did Max say anything about after? Did he take an interview? Driver reactions?
Yeah,
like I said, I didn't get a chance to look at it today.
He showed his frustrations for sure, but I mean, it doesn't seem like he was what I would say worried. Again, it is Friday, so let's see.
The other one was already done. My bad, dude. I got dinner going, and
No, it's okay. Well, it looks like in the first practice, Bottas had the.
So what you're saying is, day 1, everybody was having some luck.
Well, I mean, the weird thing is, free practice 1, Bottas apparently had the fastest time at 1:18. But then at 2, Hamilton destroyed that by 5 seconds.
Yeah.
With 1:13.
Yeah.
So I'd say they got free practice 2. So it's
almost like nobody else was on the track.
Free practice 1, it was Bottas, Stroll, Alonso, Perez, Verstappen, Piastri.
Why are you calling him pastry?
Because he races like a goddamn cupcake. That's why.
He's got a McLaren. You really can't just.
Right.
You can't really knock him for that. It's a McLaren.
Magnussen, Hulkenberg, Guan Yu.
Okay. Show Guan Yu. Okay.
But yeah, free practice 2. Max came in 6th. Perez came in 8th behind Bottas.
I would like to see driver reactions if they have any after today. I don't imagine they do, but I mean, we'll see tomorrow. We'll see after free practice 3, and I'll watch qualifying and everything. So, but as of right now, Max number 1 for sure. He's still number 1, dude. He's gonna be number 1 all year with a car like that.
He's going to be number 1 until he isn't, right?
And especially the fact that Red Bull may still be hiding pace.
Oh, so you're admitting that Red Bull could possibly be cheating?
No, there's no cheating. I'm just saying they might be hiding pace. Like I'm saying, it doesn't. I mean, free practice 1 and 2 really doesn't matter because of the fact that they probably run different fuel levels and different race tracks.
Okay, but here's where I run the. I don't buy that bullshit of hiding pace. Okay, I don't buy it 1 fucking second because we have seen it all year long. That's bullshit. We know how fast they really are.
Yeah, That's what I'm saying. But they hide
So
it.
this hiding pace
Like,
crap, Caleb, it's not like they're hiding shit. They're not hiding anything. Everybody knows how fast Red Bull is. There's no hiding that.
But I think they still have more.
So this whole time, even through the races,
Hmm.
Red Bull is still hiding pace.
I mean, maybe when they
Maybe. So
put,
the only reason why I think they would be hiding pace at this point is because they don't want to be like, oh fuck, if we go too, it's like Dash at the end of The Incredibles. They didn't want him to win by too much because it would show off that he was cheating because he had super speed.
yeah,
You know, it's kind of like that. Like they're like, yes, Max, go get too much, too much, too much, too much. Slow down, just a little bit, slow it down, just a little bit.
yeah.
It's like we actually have something illegal under the hood. We don't want to give any suspicion.
It's definitely not that.
I would hope not.
It's not.
That would be one hell of a fucking scam. A spectacular scam
I don't know
that
how
would
they
happen in the world of F1.
cheat, bro.
If that happened, would you stop being a Max Verstappen and Red Bull fan?
It wouldn't happen because the cars get looked at after every qualifying session, after every session that they do. Everything gets taken apart and put back together, pretty much. Just so that
My question.
engines and make sure that everything is correct and parc fermé, they go through inspection every race, every qualifying.
Okay.
They go
Or
through
if they had ever found out that Red Bull was cheating, would you stop being a Red Bull fan?
probably not. I'd be like, I'm disappointed, but we'll bounce back.
It's like a Houston Astros fan.
Oh no, those guys can go burn.
So yeah, we cheated, but we still came back and won a World Series, so we bounced back.
Yeah.
That's a Astros fan. But your knowledge of these races are obviously far greater than mine because you've been paying attention to this much longer than I have.
Well, I also have F1 2022, so.
Oh, he plays the video game. Yeah. So now, how difficult? Actually, I'm looking at the track right here. There's nothing about that track that spells difficult.
Nope. It's Canada.
Sorry.
I mean, you got some slow, long corners, but
I can see why you say it's a Red Bull track.
yeah.
Because the length of those straightaways.
Yeah.
That DRS lane at
Earlier this season, Russell said it earlier this season. He could have taken off the entire rear wing as a drag reduction system, and the Red Bull still would have beat him. Said we could have just made a rocket and still freaking lost.
So at turn 11, yeah, that's not a fucking turn. Turn 12.
Probably
yeah,
a chicane.
This from 10 to 13 is just nothing but speed. Then you hit the speed trap at 13, but then you have another DRS zone from 14 to 1.
Yeah.
So you have 1, 2, 3 DRS zones.
Yeah.
In this track.
Yeah. So you can see why I say free practice 1 and 2 ain't shit. That doesn't mean anything. Red Bull is probably running different fuel levels than Mercedes because I mean Mercedes ran their fuel levels low as a qualifying lap to go even faster, so that's reduced weight, and they were on mode push the entire way, so you know they're going to be quicker. You'll get a better understanding of it tomorrow after free practice 3. And when Max and Checo are, you know, top 3. Hamilton will probably make it on the podium again this week. I think Mercedes has definitely either caught up or about to catch up to Aston Martin.
Do you think Aston Martin's still faster?
I think they might be faster now. as of last week, they definitely didn't look faster. They didn't look quicker. Hamilton looked fast. So they probably either caught him or, they're right there with him. But again, Hamilton's just a better driver.
I mean, it's Lewis Hamilton.
Oh,
So that's just
yeah.
what it comes down to. What does Ferrari need to do to finally pull their heads out of their asses?
Fire everyone.
Got it. But they'll never do that.
No, because it's Ferrari and they're. Sorry, I'm getting dinner right now.
I watched that movie. What was the one about Niki Lauda and Rush? And when he gets out of the car's shit. You can't say that. It's a Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
Ferrari's shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrible. You can't say that. It's a Ferrari. I was like, that's a literal sum up of the entire thing.
Ferrari's ego is too big for them to start rebuilding. You should see some of the contracts Ferrari people who buy Ferraris have to sign. In order to even buy a Ferrari.
Talk to me.
So you can't put a wrap on it. You can't put it has to be the stock model or whatever. You have to drive it a certain amount of at least a minimum amount of miles per year. Otherwise, they can revoke the contract and take the car away. Yeah.
How the fuck would I ever want to buy a Ferrari with those type of conditions?
It's really dumb. Some people say fuck it, but
I mean, I'll admit they're nice cars, but
well, oh no, they don't
it's
take
not
it away.
a car that I would want to.
They don't take it away, I don't think, but it does leave you open to be sued by Ferrari, which essentially it would probably be for the amount of the car.
Hold on. You're telling me Ferrari can sue you
Mm-hmm.
for not driving the car?
Mm-hmm. So the whole process you have to go through when you buy a Ferrari, because it's not. They have a standard that you have to know how to drive it, because they're fucking expensive.
I understand that, but
And maybe they have to protect the brand. Ferrari treats its branding.
You're not even selling a car then. You're borrowing the car.
No, you're buying the brand of Ferrari. You're not buying the car. You're buying the brand when you go get a Ferrari. That's essentially what you're paying for. But that's the way Ferrari operates. And I mean, when you do have a Ferrari, you have, like I said, you have to drive it a X amount of miles before, during the year. And
Hit the Modelo, yes, sir.
but yeah, it's stupid, but
People do it, I guess.
It's the same thing with buying a Ford GT.
You telling me Ford?
Yeah, there's a minimum mileage that you have to hit as well if you buy a Ford, because they don't want it just sitting in the garage collecting dust. Because just like I said, essentially, when you buy that kind of a car with the brand, you basically becomes an ambassadorship. So you're under contract with them.
That's wild to me. That is a very wild concept to me.
Mm-hmm. It's delicious, man. Oh my god.
And let me guess, this shit has been happening forever?
Yeah. I think Justin Bieber got sued by Ferrari because he put a wrap on his Ferrari It was Justin Bieber or somebody. I know some artist had a Ferrari that they painted up with like a new. You can look it up on YouTube. Just people getting sued by Ferrari because they either put a wrap on it or like not a stock color of a Ferrari.
That's insane. What are the fines for this type of shit?
I mean, it's fines. It's termination of the ownership. Like,
So you lose the car,
but see,
probably
here's the
have to
thing.
pay back
Here's the
double
thing
what
with
you
like
paid for the car.
supercars, though. Here's the thing with like supercars and super luxury cars. Very rarely do people actually go and buy it. They'll lease it to own, but very rarely do they actually ever go through with actually buying it. So I mean, it also puts kind of, it's more of a lease. But like that's how rich people and stuff like end up keeping their money, and they don't take a huge loss when they buy these supercars. They put it on an extended lease or whatever, a lease to own kind of contract, because it doesn't open them too much for open them up enough for financial loss. It's smarter to, because like if you buy it, you're ultimately completely responsible for all repairs and all of that. If you're leasing it, you know what I mean?
That's still like, that's crazy. I mean, hey, you learn something new every day. People are probably going to look at that and go, damn, JP, you're fucking stupid. You didn't know that shit? No, I didn't fucking know that shit. All right. That's fine. I'm completely fine with, because one, I've never been rich enough to even be looking at a motherfucking luxury car like that to even know that information.
Yeah.
Nor do I give a shit about celebrity lifestyles or anything like that. So it's like I don't pay attention to that stuff, but it is fucking wild to know that they will like you. There's certain conditions that you have to basically fulfill in order to keep the car. And the fact that they'll sue them for doing any type of alteration to the car, even though it's already bought and paid for. It's not. Well, again, like you're saying, you're paying for the brand. You're not paying for the car.
Yeah. You're paying for the Ferrari badge, bro.
To some, it may be worth it. To some,
Yeah. A lot of people who buy a Ferrari have loved Ferrari their entire freaking life. You don't go and buy a Ferrari without absolutely loving the brand and everything like that. Like,
you have to be like a diehard in order to buy that car.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And I'm sure I would be naive at this point now to think that this is any different with any other type of luxury vehicle.
It's a little different with Ferrari, because Ferrari is, I mean, it's the household name. You're paying for the name.
McLaren
Bugatti doesn't have the same kind
do
of,
shit like that.
yeah, but Bugatti doesn't have the same kind of brand as a Ferrari. Lamborghini is not as good as Ferrari. The branding of a Ferrari, bro, everybody knows. You can go anywhere in the world and everybody knows what a Ferrari is. Anywhere. Literally anywhere.
Yeah. But I mean, can that not be the case for other? Ferrari's not the only brand that has that type of status.
Ferrari and Mercedes.
Yeah, but Mercedes is more. They do the overall. They do the supercars and they do the general cars.
The luxuries, and it's a luxury vehicle.
I mean, regardless, yeah, because of the brand, but it's more, how do we say, civilian-esque, style. But I would think Lamborghini is a very big, brand.
Yeah.
And a Bugatti, like you said, is another big brand. You would
Yeah.
think that they may
That-
not be on the same level, but they are universally known.
I wouldn't even say that a Bugatti is universally known.
Really?
Not
Interesting.
like a Ferrari.
What about Aston Martin?
That's popular in England, but
All right. So, I mean, I know you haven't really seen.
UK and Britain and stuff.
I know you haven't really seen the practices and stuff like that, but I mean, every time you're on, it's time for to make your predictions,
Yeah.
make your looks at what's
Okay.
going to happen
Wait.
during the
What
weekend.
are we predicting? Top what?
Give me 5. If you go on a 10 ranch, and I'm just going to start the ad and kick
Okay.
you out.
All right. So I got Max. Okay. Hamilton, Perez. I got Alonso and then Russell. Cory's throwing up at me right now.
I understand her hatred for George Russell. That's fine. That's completely understood.
Making gag noises over there, like
every racer and stuff just has that, but he has that face that you just want
to. His face makes me want to choose violence. I don't know.
Well, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to take a look and watch anything Formula One, the biggest racing circuit on the planet. There's no better racers on the planet. I don't care what you say. There's no better racers on the planet than the 20 men that are on the grid for Formula One. Go check it out. This Sunday, the Canadian Grand Prix. And if you want to learn more about it, you could go check it out on Netflix and everything else like that, but take that with a little bit of a grain of salt.
Because that's drama. That's not.
Yeah. So
if you like drama, then you'll like F1, or you'll like Drive to Survive.
Well, I mean, you'll like F1 if you like drama, because there's a lot of crazy shit that happens in that sport.
Yeah.
Big time races. So let's see if our F1 guy CJP gets it virtually right again.
Josh, you can't say virtually right again if the last time the only thing that I had called was Max winning.
Yeah, but
you can't go back and be like, well, if this didn't happen, then you would have got it right. Like, well, no.
That's why I say virtually. Virtually, you had it right. But anyways, little brother, appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you again next week. Yeah. We'll catch race day on Sunday, yeah?
All right.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll get our sponsors from Raise. CJ, we'll see you later, man.
What's up, JAFFO Army? JP here of the All-Pro JAFFOs, bringing you a message from our proud partners over at Raise Energy. Raise Energy takes a giant leap of faith with instilling a high-quality formula to bring the consumer a powerful yet sustained energetic experience to help us put your workouts and focus in general to the very next level. Perfect for anyone at any time. Raise Energy has become the most popular, the best rated energy drink on the market to date, with a phenomenal flavor profile that puts most of the competitors just downright to shame. Powered by the enhanced Refresh technology, Raise Energy delivers with a performance-enhancing energy drink profile that aids in the most often overlooked categories, which include targeted focus, enhanced recovery time, as glycogen becomes depleted, improve clean energy levels, boost in stamina and in hydration. Most importantly, each can of Raise has absolutely 0 calories, 0 sugar, 0 carbohydrates to give you a smarter and healthier option. You should not have to drink or settle for any other energy drink that contains more sugar and carbohydrates than you can count. Instead, opt for the smart choice with the #1 fan voted energy drink on the planet with Raise Energy Drink. Use the promo code ALPHARAISE at checkout to get 15% off of your order. Demand more. Join the Raise Rebellion. Let them know the JAFFOs sent you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And ladies and gentlemen, getting into it now. The next segment, obviously, the big topic of discussion for us has been the A7FL playoffs, and we had to bring him back. None other than Nevada, the A7FL Nevada owner himself, Mr. Derek Duncan.
And the crowd goes wild.
Yes, sir. Derek, it has been it's been pretty freaking wild watching these playoffs and everything else like that. But how everything has played out, how have you been eyeing it? What have your thoughts so far?
Well, to be real, everything has gone exactly as I thought it would. I had hopes that we'd get Silk City to maybe beat the Watchmen, so we'd have a Huff versus the U matchup as the final out of New Jersey. I got halfway there, but in my heart, I didn't think that would actually go down. The Watchmen just have way too much for that young squad. I mean, Huff really turned those guys around this season and did something strong for them. But I won't say the inexperience. I would just say the ultra amounts of experience on the other side of the ball just had a lot to bring to the table that day that was just going to be too much for them at the end of the day. So, it's basically gone chalk, right? I mean, the only real, we guess we can call it an upset was the U over BIC, but I mean, every time they've played in a meaningful game, it's come down to the very last play and an inch. So you can't say one's really better than the other. It's just, if this was hockey, we'd be talking puck luck today. Oh, by the way, my Golden Knights are the world champions. So, okay, what you got for me?
Congratulations on that. Yes, the Golden Knights. They've been in fruition not very long in the NHL and already hoisting the Stanley Cup. So congratulations to them.
Man, it's been a long, hard journey. We've had we missed the playoffs one season. I mean, it's been a rough road. I feel bad for like real hockey fans because us Vegas hockey fans, we are Vegas hockey fans for the most part. Don't get me wrong. There's a bunch of really real hockey fans in Vegas for the most part. We're all new to the sport. There was I think there were 6,000 people in town who were really avid hockey fans that were season ticket holders before it popped up the way it did. It's like it's the most exciting ticket in town. But you didn't call me on here to talk hockey, so.
But I'm looking at the Nevada division, and one topic of discussion that we were thinking about, and I've talked to, I mean we both, me and Country K, have had the pleasure to talk to. We've talked with Big Rob. We've talked with Joshua Butcher of the Watchmen. We talked with Lavish. We talked with Trey Robinson. One thing that we wanted to actually find out was travel-wise how things would fare. And
the future or what we already did?
No, like for the playoffs. I mean, the champion for the Nevada having to go to Ohio.
Yeah.
And then, the same thing, the Northeast, their championship is also in Ohio.
Correct.
So the travel schedule and everything else like that, and then having to come from the East all the way to Vegas, there seems to be a bit of a, not like a worry, but the possibility that the numbers may not be there when it comes to putting guys on the field.
Honestly, if that were the case, it'd just be bad planning on the coaching staff and GMs on the other side, because we got to travel to Ohio, and I booked Airbnbs for Ohio like 3 months ago. Got all of our pricing lined up for charters for the flights about 2-3 weeks ago. That part's still weird, but there's a budget that they give us, and you understand how to build around that budget, and you get your teams prepared to execute that budget. I started talking to the playoff bound teams, I don't know, a month ago, like, hey, this is what's happening. I've already got the rooms scheduled. Please understand we're probably going to be there Saturday, Sunday, Monday, so start asking for work off now. If you're one of these top 6 teams and you really feel you got a shot to do that, ask for off now so we don't have that be an issue coming down. If it's going to be an issue, start trying to figure it out. Right. We'll take it. We got, here's our budget. I'll make sure everything fits within our travel. We had people looking at pricing for LA and from Vegas because, we had 2 teams in LA that had a very legit chance that they might have gone. The fact that we hadn't seen them tested and know what they really were made of, all we had was film, and we only had film against who we had it against. So it's kind of hard to really see what was going on. But so we prepared for as much as we could prepare for, and our budgets are set aside so we can make it all happen. So right now, if the pricings hold that we had budgeted in, we'll be able to travel 40 people, which is 35 players and 5 coaches.
Which in sevens is more than enough. Yeah, that's the
right,
full team that you would probably need. So, I mean, because we talked to Big Rob, yesterday. Shout out to Big Rob. Love having him on. He's always good to have.
He is amazing on the radio.
When we talked to him, it was like it seemed like there wasn't a worry from the East, because I brought it up to him, and I talked to Trey about it as well at one point off air, but I talked to him. I said, if Sick With It or Insomniacs, one of those 2 teams battle it out, they end up going to Ohio, beating the Chaos and making it to the championship. If they end up getting there and end up beating whoever it is out of the East, it's going to put a mindset that Nevada is a lot further along than anyone anticipated.
Right. You mean when that happens? But go ahead.
Because when I think about it, it's like, well, yeah, technically these guys have been around for almost a decade. Nevada's been around for 2-3 years. There's obviously a gap in the learning curve at that point. So if you guys were to come up and do that, it proves you guys are a lot better than they anticipated, and that more respect should be put down going, okay, and we talked about this before, it's gonna set a fire under the East ass that we need to start thinking of something quick to be able to keep the edge that we have, because they've already caught up. They're already here. Yes.
So it's a very unique situation, and I can tell you that nobody in Vegas really understands it. Why does this city of sometime just got to 3 million people, like literally just got to 3 million people, why do we have 4 or 5 high schools that are perennially in the top 30 every year when there's only, I'm talking 5, right?
Yeah.
That's 15% of the nation's top 5 athletes are coming out of Las Vegas. Why is that? I think it has something to do with the weather. It has something to do with the culture in this city when it comes to sports, when it comes to football. And I think we tapped into that culture with the A7FL in the fall, and that culture actually developed our spring the way it did. Like, if we didn't have the fall season, we would be where Florida is this year. Last year, where Florida is last year. Like, ooh, man, they look like they might have a little something. You guys might want to pay attention to Vegas next year. That's what they were saying about Florida last year. That's where we would be this year if it wasn't for that fall season. That fall season, it kicked into gear. Like, all the majority of the real ballers that play flag and a few of the semi-pro guys that go between both decided to get involved with our league. And in doing so, all their buddies started paying attention, and they decided they wanted to play after that fall season, which is why we went from 6 teams to 8. And, granted, 2 of our bottom tier teams probably shouldn't have had to endure competing with our top level teams this season, and we're going to get that right for this fall and get that straightened out. But all of that created what is the Insomniacs, what is Sick With It, what is the Force, what is the Kryptonite, what is OTT, what is the Hunters, which is the teams that took care of the bottom two tier teams, right? So
Right.
we've got this hierarchy of the elite guys, the guys that are left. The Force belong in that category, hands down. Don't get it twisted.
Right.
Kryptonite, who had if they had their full squad come out, would be knocking on the door of the Force every week. OTT, they're 2 or 3 veterans away from being in that upper echelon category. They've got guys, they just don't have the temperament yet or the overall depth and talent, overall depth of talent to be able to compete with the upper team. So that culture from flag, from semi-pro, the good part of the semi-pro came into Vegas. We got guys from the Govs, guys from the Saints. We got guys that are former alphas, guys that are kings that are playing 8-man that decided that our league looked attractive to them enough. They were having enough fun, and their buddies were having enough fun. They wanted to get involved, and that is what put us where we needed to be. Those guys just had their toe in the water in the spring last year. The fall, they jumped in waist deep.
As much as it was kind of criticized and stuff, and that's what it was. It was criticized from the East because everybody was like, well, "What's this for? It's meaningless for the spring and everything." But looking at it from that end, with as much experience as they've had, you kind of understand what they're talking about. But for the growth and development of your league, it was a necessity to be able to establish
Absolutely.
everything so far.
Absolutely. And I'll be frank, it was straight up luck because it was going to be a good, fun season that we were going to do what we were going to do. But it just so happened a brand new sports station in Las Vegas decided that they were coming on air, and it just so happened that I have a friend of a friend of a friend that knew it was coming and said, "Hey, man, you should reach out to these guys and see what's up." And it just so happened that the guy who runs the organization is a dear friend of one of my best friend's wives. I was like, "Hey, can you give me a meeting?" Absolutely. Walk in, talk to Michael Cory at Fox, Triple SEN, Silver State Sports Entertainment Network. I have this league. Here's what we looked like in the spring. I got 6 teams coming in. Would you be interested in having us? He looked at me dead in my eye. He goes, "Not only am I interested in having you, I want to feature you. You are exactly what we're looking for. This is exactly what this sports station is supposed to be about. Vegas sports." He's like, "I don't even want to cover your road games, to be honest. I just want to see what's happening in Vegas." So that changed when he saw how good it was, but that's how it started out. And because we got to tell everybody our fall season was on broadcast television here in Las Vegas, and hey, you guys who are playing flag, you want your homies to see you on TV, and they're sitting on the couch, tell them to tune in to 5.2. And that vibe kind of blew us up. Yeah. Even more so than just having a fall season would have, having that attention and attraction on it, and twofold, having our broadcast team in Vegas actually spend so much time figuring out our streaming, working with the New Jersey guys and figuring out the broadcast and how to do it remote. It elevated the overall league and taught them how to do a lot of things as well. So it was a lot of stroke of luck, a lot of preparation, a lot of being in the right place at the right time. But luck is when preparation meets opportunity, right? So
Yeah,
so we've been very lucky, and that luck we're hoping will continue. And I'm hoping that my guys who are going to represent the West will be lucky enough to pull out a win when it comes to Bullhead City.
We're completely excited, and we've been talking about it this entire time because and we've tried to kind of instill it in the people that we've talked to kind of understand, and we've talked to you about it as well, the understanding of what is actually happening here. With the two sides coming together for the Super Bowl, the national championship, it's just, there's a historical aspect to it that if you look long term, this is where it's going to either catapult or destroy. It's one of those types of situations.
Yeah, I mean that sounds great, and that's a way to build suspense. I think we're going to be all right no matter what happens. I think. I mean, what are the 3 scenarios, right? Either it's a competitive game, or it's not on one side or the other, right? Which one of those ends up being a catastrophe? I don't see.
Right.
I mean, the guys from back east are expecting to come out to Vegas and work us like they have every time one of their elite teams have played us. The guys from out west.
But there's also, and again, because we got this when we talked to Big Rob, there's not
there's not a worry because again, when I brought that up of how if the Vegas won, they said, you know what? Even if Vegas were to win, the East wouldn't be stressing about it because of that aspect that I told you about the number of people. That it wouldn't necessarily mean the same if it was a full roster versus 11 to 15
Yeah, well,
guys.
you're absolutely right. They are getting their bail ready right now. So honestly, they've baked in 100 excuses. I'm hearing them all right now. They're already asking me questions. How come it's out there? I'm like, well, let's see. How come it's out there? What I mean, why do you guys get to have the benefit? It's out here. Our guys got to drive 100 miles to get there. No, it's not as bad as getting on an airplane. But guess what? Last season, we had to get on an airplane 2 weeks back to back, right? Vegas had to travel to Jersey and then to Philly, or actually Delaware, back to back weekends. And nobody was really actually prepared for that work-wise, for travel-wise, for getting their schedule right. We had guys flying in that morning, guys that were damn near running up as the as the warm-ups for the game started from Vegas. I mean, it was not ideal. So what we put in place this season was an actual playoff plan that started before the season began. So nobody got surprised with, hey, guess what? And you're going to have to go back-to-back weeks if you go up these playoffs this far. Like, what? So we did a bad job understanding what we were up against last season. I was very sure to not have that happen to Vegas this year, and very sure that everything the way it went down was as fair as possible given the opportunity that was there. I fought my ass off to make sure that these playoff games were spaced 2 weeks apart. I know it extends the season, but it only makes it fair and allows guys who aren't getting paid to play this game time to get their bodies some rest, time to spend some time with their family and not have to leave 2 weekends in a row. There's a lot that goes into that, both physically and mentally, and I don't think it's fair to our guys to have to force them to do that without compensating them, and we're not in a position to compensate them right now. So the best thing we can do is look out for their safety, look out for their mental welfare, and make sure that we're treating them the best we can with the resources we have.
I mean, and you guys have learned from it quickly. That's the main part that I want to highlight, because it's not even the 3 strikes you're out. It happened once, not happening again.
Yeah,
we're gonna make sure that so that I like to hear it, because again, we've been blessed to be able to talk to you guys and be kind of a part of this back and forth, like kind of almost being in the middle of it, going, oh man, when just hearing the shit talking back and forth, it's just awesome for us to hear, because we understand that yes, there's the shit talking, but there's also the respect. But when I hear one side, I always love to hear the next side. So it's just, I look at it going, they're not making any excuses. Neither should y'all. Whatever happens, whatever comes out of it, you got to live with whatever comes out of it.
Look, I came out of the East last year going, I feel bad I did not have these guys prepared enough to compete at the level they could have, that I actually created a roadblock for them to perform at their top shape. I didn't have my housing right. I really didn't have their travel right. I did the best I could with the limited stuff that I had, but my understanding of how this was going to go down wasn't right. And I said to myself when I was leaving there, that will never happen again. And the players that were there looked at me based on their performance, and they said, that will never happen again. So we all had an understanding of one another that we were going to take care of each other next season. I was going to work my ass off for them so that they would turn around and work their ass off for me, and we'd be right here where we are, having something to talk about when rolling into this championship that Vegas is going to be participating in. And let me just say, now that it's happened, I'm actually a fan, but going into it, I didn't think that we should be playing East versus West yet. I did not think it was fair for the West to automatically have a shot at a championship. You need to beat a bunch of quality teams to play in a championship. Now that we're here and Vegas's quality has become what it's become, I take that all back. I did not realize I was going to have an Insomniacs, a Force, and a Sick-Witted, and a Kryptonite, and an OTT team. No shade on the Hunters and the rest of the guys, that were going to actually be a iron that sharpened iron throughout the season and really test each other to make each other understand what was going down. Now, it got away from it at the end of the season, but it took that beginning of the season to get where we're at.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, and I wouldn't necessarily like take it back because again, there's still. I mean, because I had that same type of thing too because I wanted to see during regular and eventually those scenarios are gonna happen at some point in the future where we have interconference play during the regular season because I feel that's a necessity.
Absolutely. We
You,
just got to
you
have
know,
interconference money to have interconference play.
exactly. You know, it's there's steps to get there for sure.
Right.
You know, but that's definitely something that I thought would be crucial in the development, especially for Nevada. But then, you know, like you said, seeing what it's become because as the season has gone by, my opinions of I don't know if they're ready, I don't know if they're ready, I don't know if they're ready turns into to be honest, I actually think they might be more than ready.
Yeah, they're showing Vegas is showing versus the Aces. I did not expect that. I did not expect a mercy rule victory. I expected it to be one sided because I felt like the tape that I was seeing on both squads, Vegas looked better, but I thought what I was seeing on tape from the Aces when they were actually grinding, when guys were challenging them, when they had to turn it up, it looked right. And I was thinking that those games were going to be a lot closer, and when they were not, I said, okay, that there's some shine out here that I must recognize a little bit deeper. I need to pay a little bit closer attention. These guys are even stronger than I thought they were, and I'm very happy to say that.
Well, I mean, it's your baby, right? You know, of course, you're like,
Right, right.
they're all
Look at him;
grown
he's got
up
a
now.
job.
They grow up so fast.
Yes.
Type of thing.
Yes.
You know, but it has been absolute, you know, pleasure to be able to watch the growth of the league as fast as it because for us it's like, yeah, we thought it's going to take some time for the West to catch up to the East, but with this type of quick progression, it's like, oh, that just makes things even better. That just means when they pop up in these other places, we won't probably have to wait as long as we think. It's going to
Right.
catch on and it's just going to be competitive almost immediately.
Right. And think about it, man. Like, we have barely even tapped California, one of the best football states in the country. We haven't touched Texas. We have not touched Georgia. I mean, the South in general, Louisiana, Alabama, man. Once those markets turn on and the type of people they can turn out to play in this game, I I'm actually scared. I know my guys are badass ballers, but when I start thinking about them SEC boys and the guys that end up, you know, front squatting 400 pounds and putting it on, on tape. It's beautiful to see, but as a guy who's running a league in Las Vegas and not seeing guys out here doing anything like that, I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not ready for that. But these guys show me something different every day, and honestly, both of the squads that remain and literally are some of the best football I've seen played. Not even just from the actual on the skill level, on the field level, but X's and O's too. I've been very impressed with some of the complexity of the pulling guards and where the counters are coming from and the reads based on a safety location, how they're actually going to pull their. I'm like, yo, this is. If I was scheming a D against this, I would have a problem right now, and I don't say that about very many people that aren't the NFL.
No, it's pretty wild, and again, it's been awesome to see. We can't wait to get down there to enjoy the festivities that weekend. That's gonna
Hey,
be awesome.
remember I got to bounce soon. So if you got any other,
Yes, sir. That's
if
what
you
I'm
got one
saying,
thing you want to hit me, okay.
We're glad that you gave us some time. We appreciate the thoughts and everything. We'll see you again real soon in July. Appreciate it, Derek. Ladies and gentlemen of the Jaffa Army.
My
Derek
bad.
Duncan.
I thought I should have known you were already a pro, bro. You had me. That's on me. That's on me. You guys are amazing. Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure. I'd like to get back soon. And I'll see you. And I'll see you in Bullhead.
Sounds good. We'll see you
All
there.
right. All right, buddy.
Derek Duncan, ladies and gentlemen. Right.
Dude, all I can see the The ad.
There we go. I couldn't hear you for a second because I'm an idiot. What's going on, JAFFOs?
So, Cory, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just can see our ad. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, you're doing the ad. Okay.
Okay, let's see. That. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so maybe it's because they had these audio. Okay, let's see here. Let's see.
There we go. All right.
Boom. Now we're on, ladies and gentlemen, the Omega Man 1/3 of the 3-on-1 podcast. Matt Ryan's beloved quarterback. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Cory Hammond.
See, I almost pulled a Big Rob and came onto your show as Mr. Roboto.
Oh.
I don't know if you guys caught the most recent 3-on-1, but he was coming in off that lean. But what's going on, Jaffo Army, and specifically, gentlemen?
Yes, sir.
We got Country K, that 2023 internet looking great in 4K. What's going on, my guy? And shout outs to the camera to get even half of the enormity pause of that fucking beast from the southeast. But what's going on, gents?
Oh, we're doing good, man. We just talked with Derek over from Nevada, and we talked with Big Rob, yesterday, and
I saw that. Did you see my comment on the on the YouTube while it was live?
No, I don't think I did.
He was talking about specifically, right? He was talking about in 2016, because you guys were talking about BICU.
Yeah, I saw
in 2016, that was the catch. And I'll tell you.
Oh, so okay. And that's what I was saying. I was like, wait, that was you.
Yeah,
you got like
don't ruin the pseudonym online. It's a long story.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say. I was just gonna say, is that a?
We're gonna go down a rabbit hole there. That listen, I bring you guys down enough rabbit holes. We don't have to go that one. That's a completely unrelated one.
Let alone.
But I mean, if you want to, I'll ruin the show. You know me. I have no problems.
I mean, there's nothing to really ruin here. It's just
no. I mean this. And my alarm for this is going off. Let me adjust something here.
So
I was on time, so I don't need the alarm anymore. I can turn it off.
So we talked with Big Rob yesterday, like you saw, and he said, the East isn't really worried because of the numbers. It doesn't really count when you're not playing against the full roster. And Derek just saying right now that I guess the East is already trying to come up with their bailout excuse, because I mean he's got it. He just explained it right now how he has it. He said he learned from last year, the experience coming to the East and stuff like that, and he said he didn't want that to happen again. So flight plans, all that kind of stuff's already been worked out, way ahead of time. So that's not an issue. So it's just bringing those going, like the counter punches, looking at both sides, going, all right, what's going to be said here? What's going to be said there? It's a nice little back and forth that we just absolutely adore being a part of.
Well, and I think what's awesome too is that I'm from New Jersey, so even though I would probably still root heavily, like if I was like not involved in the game and was able to kind of have a rooting interest, right? I would probably root for whoever it was that was kind of more regional. Which is common, I think, in all of sports, which is it's one of those things maybe we can talk about when we go with the general conversation, if we get there, if I allow enough airtime. But when you looked at this year's playoffs, it really didn't hit us until BIC was out, right? And even though I think everyone going into that game, watching that game, knew it was going to be a close game, I don't think the consequences of that result were really present in anybody's mind. I mean, you look back and you look
that's
back at
definitely
this.
one thing that I noticed, because I told Rob the same thing. We were thinking about it going like, damn, like that. Obviously, we knew it was going to be an absolute war to the very end. It always is. And now it's at a point where we noticed it immediately when the BIC went down. There was almost a sense of relief that came over the rest of the league. And I had to kind of put it out there going like, if anybody on the West or thinking that just because the BIC went down that they're safe, they've got another thing coming. They're completely wrong in that assumption. But it definitely feels like now that the BIC's out, that I don't know if it's a false sense of confidence, but it's a high level of confidence that's been just spread like wildfire.
Well, I think since the beginning of the season, what the assumption is, you know, we're even you guys, we're the Madden generation, right? So being the Madden generation, when you play a dynasty, you have young talent and you win a championship. What happens to your roster in the overalls, right? Everybody goes up. Everybody's better. Everybody. But what's funny is that on the 3-on-1 podcast, we had an episode in which we were kind of recapping one of our great defensive linemen's careers. His name's Big Mo Ramadan. And we kind of had that, send off retirement, like, let's talk about your career type of episode. And one of the things that was a huge point and a major, theme of that episode was the difficulty in winning the year after a championship. And for the Chiefs and for Big Mo specifically, it was even to win the year that they actually did succeed and win the championship, because they'd been on top for so long and been right there for so long. It was almost like there was no satisfaction in any regular season or even playoff win, because the only win that they wanted to get the entire year that was actually important to them was the final one to say that they were the champs, right? And they had an almost Bills type almost run in which the Chiefs were close so many times, and one of those years is actually the 2016 year that Rob won his first championship, which the Chiefs were up. I think it was by 3 or maybe even 4 scores at half. So, the conversation going into the playoffs was, yeah, BIC dropped the game to the U. It was a rivalry game. It was a last second type of thing. We know how close these teams have always been.
Well, I mean, Big Rob also made it a point that the numbers game, BIC had a lot of players that surprisingly went.
I mean, we as guys who know the guys that run that team, the guys that are that team personally, we could see it right away with with some of the personnel stuff. But I mean, the thing is that regardless of what is the actual reason, and if you can say that, that's not an excuse. That's something that they should have taken care of regardless, right? And it kind of goes into my point is that the types of things that you either take for granted or kind of you're over that grind to become a champion. Once you are a champion, there's this almost like release of anxiety to we won, right? And the reason why there's that kind of comedic conversation about guys that win all the time. And like I'll bring up Nick Saban and Bill Belichick, for instance. I've never seen either of those men ever do that, right? They're always stick right up there, tight as hell. And even if they're winning by like 50, they're going to be screaming at somebody, because the consistent excellence is something that never stops.
Right.
And look, when we went into that game, we were still in BIC's league. This was still there. They were still wearing the belt. And even though everybody else was obviously confident in what they could do, they knew based on what they've seen from BIC last year and this year, the type of dominance that they could have and the type of game-breaking players that they throw out there that are really problematic for any team in our league, including a team like the Watchmen, including a team, and I don't think they would admit it, tons publicly, but including a team like the Insomniacs. A lot of these teams that are left were built specifically with the target of BIC in mind.
Mm.
So when BIC loses, to your point, Jay, I don't think there's a false sense of confidence. I think it's just the door was actually, the door was always there, and they wanted to, everybody imagined themselves walking to the handle, turning it, and pushing it open. But once BIC lost, now that door is literally wide open, and all you need to do is walk through it in most teams' minds. So the thing about this playoff run and the way that the expansion of the league is set up, I don't think we realized the consequences of that game going in, because when we started this playoffs, there was 5 teams from New Jersey, in which 3 were legitimate championship contenders, right? And then there was 6 teams from Vegas. And then there's the teams from Ohio, teams from Florida, teams from California. And we're like, all right. There's 1 team left from New Jersey now. And if you look in the history of our league, there's only been 2 champions that have ever won outside of New Jersey. And one of them goes back to before this was even technically the A7FL, if we count the Pennsylvania A team that won. But the Pennsylvania Immortals won, and the Baltimore Gators have won, and every other champion has always been a New Jersey team. The Patterson U is now the only team left to kind of fend for that title, because of the way that the playoffs are structured. These teams are beating each other up. So it's funny that it's funny the way that things are breaking out. Really, these teams just have to beat the path that's in front of them.
Yeah.
You look at what the Insomniacs have had to do so far in the playoffs. They've had light work to be which is the kindest thing that I can say about them, right? Matt got pissed off because the team that they played in the second round of the Vegas playoffs, the Pacific playoffs, was hugging them in the second quarter.
Right.
Taking a picture.
I saw that. Yeah.
So really all the Insomniacs really have to do is, now they have Sickwood in front of them, and that's no easy task in my opinion. They have to beat the Chaos, which we saw that, we respect the Chaos to a certain degree, but let's be fair. Based on what we saw in an Ohio championship game, and not saying just the result, because they did win.
Right.
But what I looked at the product that they put on the field, they have a pretty solid defense that I think has a sound scheme. And these guys have played together for a long time before the A7 in semi-pro. So I feel like they have that kind of like relationship that, an instinctiveness that will help them.
Right.
But offensively, they couldn't really execute any on-time plays at all. And they got up really early, 12-0 on the quarterback, basically just running back and forth. And once they could corral him and force him to stay in the pocket, the Chaos had 0 chance to complete a pass on time. Yeah, and no disrespect to Keno Thomas, he's probably the MVP offensively for the Ohio division so far.
Yeah.
He's yet to play a team even, I think, of the Snow Tribes caliber. So, and that sounds very disrespectful, but let's be clear. The team that they just went to overtime with, the Heist, lost relatively convincingly to the Snow Tribe last year. So me saying that is kind of trying to put it in perspective where I think the Chaos are, which is, I respect what they did. They won all the games in front of them. You can't ask a team to do more than that, and especially with the blowouts they were getting.
Right. But I was looking at the quality of play, and I still I don't know what his name is, nor do I necessarily care to know what his name is, but number 65 on the Olentangy Volcanoes, the defensive lineman. I don't know who it is,
Yeah.
but
I don't know that guy's name today.
watching him frustrated me more than any other football player, living or dead, that I've ever seen in my entire life. It was
And
it
let's
was
see
cringeworthy to
you
watch.
guys are really prepared, because I know you guys are on your P's and Q's. You're in playoff mode.
Oh no, for sure, because
Does he and Country K, I love this. Does he frustrate you as much as when you watch Baker Mayfield?
1,000%. I'm not even going to put the sound up there because I actually
Maybe
agree with
rest
what you
his
said.
shit.
Seriously, I don't need to, because I know this, and this surprises the hell out of Kay because he knows my feelings towards him. Okay, he
What?
understands this. You understand this.
Big you
So
ain't on the seat, you ain't on the floor, my boy. You're not on the floor. As long as you know there is room to fall.
it's when I watch this, it just, there was a different type of frustration. I even went on a full monologue mode because Kay was finally, like, we were here, like, together, actually doing the show and everything. And I actually looked into the camera. And again, I don't know what his name is, but I said, it ain't for some people. It's just not. This isn't something you just want to go out and do. Just, it just, no. We're trying to grow a league here. Stop it. You're wasting our time. Stay on the sideline, pass out some towels, maybe a couple of bottles of water.
Well, that's
Take
where
some pom poms, maybe, if you have to. But I'm
I
done with
told you
watching that type of shit.
but that's where some of these divisions start at, and to fill out a bunch of teams, like, you need what you want. But I always said this about the Omegas, is if we played some of those Ohio teams, some of the Vegas teams, some of the Florida teams are tough because they
I was about to
do
say, I was
look
like,
well, they do look competitive. The O-Town Orange and the Ghost looked pretty decent against each other. It's just that they're terrible against the Nightcrawlers, which we'll see, right? So
that's a very interesting story there.
I don't know about the Boston going down to Florida and beating those teams like easily, and, like, saying like, oh yeah, we definitely beat those. But Gold Pit Bosses, I'm honest with the Pit Bosses because they do have K Uno, and one of the things our defense struggled with was those running quarterbacks. Especially with the depth that we have.
Right.
But I saw the Pit Bosses playing a 7-man zone in 7-man football, so I'll take. I think we could score enough. But that's kind of my point with some of those other teams. So the Olentangy Volcanoes specifically, they need to work on a lot, and they need to add the appropriate level talent. And there is levels to this, right? There's levels to this entire league. I mean, you even look at some of the, New Jersey teams, and we always talk about how good New Jersey teams are. Representative quarterback play for the Renegades was missing the entire year. That's why they were calling me nonstop. But if you look at that roster is better than most of the teams in the league. That defense is a unit that I don't think any unit would be looking forward to play against. But when you don't have the representative play at certain positions, or have guys trying out something that they're not necessarily good at or familiar with, or you have guys that are like, yo, I got this, and then they come in and they're trash. Look at what the Snow Tribe had to shuffle around at quarterback. I mean, it's I always talk about it, but just look at the film. They against the Omegas, the guy was 3 for 8 passing, and he had 2 interceptions against the Omegas.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you guys did get better.
But that was game like 2 or 3.
But even then, though, you guys were still showing more.
I threw for 200 yards against Snow Tribe too, so whatever. But And they also
Improvement.
the
See?
entire season that not that everybody cares about my career, but they the entire season were saying, "Man, I wish we had you. We would have won like 3 or 4 games. We would have changed." Blah, blah, blah. But I saved my 3 touchdowns against the U for the Omegas, not for their dumbasses when they played them in the first round. And my guy took off, and I can't do that, but I also can't throw the ball into the dirt when I got a wide open receiver and my team needs me. I can't do that either.
No, that's disgusting. But I mean,
so back to the more important teams that are still in the playoffs, and kind of what Derek Duncan was saying. We've been bouncing around it. BIC's out. Patterson U's the only team left from New Jersey.
And that's what, when you kind of put it in that perspective, and then you with that being like, there's only been less than a handful of teams that have won outside of New Jersey the championship. I kind of don't buy the idea of we don't really care, because that doesn't necessarily, like, if I look at it in this perspective, with everything that I've kind of gathered here, if I look at it in this perspective, I don't know if thinking about it of it's kind of, whatever, it is what it is, because like you said, making excuses one way, shape, or form, it's kind of one of those things that's like, maybe you should, because if you're not careful, it may be a while until you're back.
Well, especially when you see the growth from I was talking about this with the Baltimore division at times, right? You see the growth of the other divisions. Where's the growth? And I think you could see steady growth for some teams in New Jersey as well.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at where BIC was a couple of years ago and look where they are now.
Yeah.
And I mean, look at what the Animals were able to do, but that's another whole situation. I think that when the championship ran through New Jersey, there was a whole thing to it. Now that the championship doesn't run through New Jersey, it might get lost in the sauce that Jersey is really the team that I think the Jersey teams, including Baltimore, the Jersey teams were the teams that everybody was gunning for. Everybody was gunning for BIC. Everybody was gunning for the U, even if the U were, air quotes, vulnerable this year, right? Everybody thought that the U was vulnerable based on losing the quarterback that they lost in the offseason. And then right before the season, the guy that they chose to replace him, joined the Watchmen. So what these other divisions have been able to do, and some of self-admittedly what I think that they were working on at times, is they built the rosters to compete with the Jersey teams, including Baltimore, because the Baltimore combining the 2 Final Four teams that met those same Jersey teams and fell short. Now they got the best of both of those teams are going to be taking on the U when BIC and the U didn't combine, right? We didn't get a U team with Ashanti Worthy and Courage and Sterry Codrington and, all of the pieces from both of the teams to make a super team in Jersey yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the rivalry will allow those teams to combine, but I'm pretty sure, and that would be scary, right? But what Vegas did is the team, the main guys from the fall championship on both sides ended up kind of joining on and continuing on the legacy of Coach Donnie Bunak, who I think it's probably him working beyond, because he was always saying that he's got moves to make. And now that he's got inside everybody's mind, maybe he's planting those seeds. And I wouldn't put it past a man like that. Rest in peace to a great man. But the Insomniacs put together a super team. The Watchmen put together a super team. And if you really dissect what was happening in the Florida division, some of the better players from the teams that are below the Nightcrawlers, they're now on the Nightcrawlers because they saw the writing on the wall. Florida's got a super team, I'd say. Now the Ohio division is not that way. The Chaos are a group of guys that they're familiar with each other, and that's that whole thing. But when you're building super teams to take on the New Jersey teams that have the 6 of the 8 championship, that's really the formula that the Pennsylvania team, and even if you look at it, the year of the Baltimore, there were the 2 top Baltimore teams. But right now, the only chance for New Jersey to win the championship is the U. And when we look at the road that they would have to play to win it,
they have the toughest road, I believe.
It's by far the toughest. And even if you look at the Snow Tribe game now in retrospect, I mean, that wasn't a game that they were going to lose, but that wasn't the kryptonite or the vibe or the aces or the heist or the O-Town Orange.
Yeah.
Their easy game week 1, I take Snow Tribe over all those teams that lost, and I hate them. Like, with a passion. I constantly can't stop talking about how much I dislike them.
But I mean, we're looking at it now. It's the Insomniacs versus the Stick with it, and again, our thoughts and everything out to Lavish. He had the fractured foot and everything, so he's not going to be playing. But I know the whole team is definitely rallying around him to try and get this win. Trey, we know his thoughts. He wants to go home after the third quarter. I know it's going to be a closer game than that because there's a lot on the line. But I don't think the Chaos can be either one of these teams. First of all,
no, and I think we start with Vegas. And shout outs to Trey, because you know what? He can go home in the third quarter. The Insomniacs don't need him. So even if it's close, if that's really what he wants to do, which is kind of based on what his decision was as the MVP of the fall and the best player in the championship game, to take a backseat role in the spring, maybe he needed that time off. He's got an early out type of situation. He's not needed. He comes in, he smiles, no pressure. Give him a little time off. So if he needs to leave in the third quarter, the Insomniacs have plenty of players that are at his level or better. And if he has to, he can go home. That's on him.
Man.
I mean, guys love the Big Rob thing. Oh, I only show up to play for, tough teams, and I only I don't mind rotating in because there's another guy that'll do good, right? And my Big Rob is terrible. But let's be clear, Big Rob earning his stripes in the league, he didn't come off the field. He didn't miss games when he was the only offensive lineman other than Big Fern, and we're playing a team in, like, for instance, in the Northeast. It's a good one to say. It's like the Animals. He specifically said this in the most recent podcast. The Animals weren't going to win ever. And I was there. I remember when I was on BSC with Rob. Animals were never going to win. But there were times in the game where you couldn't just not show up. Because they weren't going to roll over and start taking pictures and playing Rochambeau and fucking Uno and slapboxing, all this fucking bullshit. Right? So the guys can say what they want because they look up to Rob and then they hear what he's saying. But I don't think they get the context of Rob as a lineman that started off his career playing both ways, playing tons of A7 physical football in the glass and grass days, which, those guys, in Vegas specifically try to shrug off some of those highlight films. But the reason that that you're talking to me and you live in San Francisco and you've heard of our league is because of how crazy those early videos were and the YouTube following we got organically with no money backing us, with no other incentive other than like, damn, these guys are fucking playing football, no pads, and killing each other. So when he reached his point where he'd won a championship, He was facing a rebuild with the team that he entered the league with, and he went to a team in the U that has almost become the the retirement plan for future Hall of Fame type players. Look at it. Look at them, and that's fair and that's fine. But when guys say, "Oh, I ain't even showing up," or I don't have to do nothing for that," you know what? There's two things. A, your team is so stacked that your individual contribution is not gonna make a difference in the game. Which then B means that you're not important as a player as much as you think. And when teams have that kind of depth, that's what wins against a lot of other teams, period. So it's not a bad strategy. But what I dislike is how confidently some of those guys talk about how great they are and how great their team is, when basically a lot of those dudes are hiding behind the dudes that are clearly better than they are. Because when you really talk about it throughout our league, the best players don't talk the most. Look at me. I talk the most. Am I the best player? No. So
At least
for me,
there's self-awareness, Corey. I'm appreciative of that. The self-awareness is always key.
well, you mentioned lavish, right? And I think
Right.
let's break it down to the game and me stop taking shots at guys for loading up and being too scared to take the responsibility of the main, being the focal point of a team on their back, and then they say, "Oh, well, we got these other guys." I mean, ask Ashanti Worthy if he's inviting new receivers to take reps from him or 3-on-1s from him. Guys rotate in, and there's plenty of guys on their roster to do it. But I don't think Ashanti Worthy is going to join the U if the U win the championship. Just saying.
Mm.
And there's a reason why when people tune in and they see BIC, they can't wait to watch Hollywood. And when we put on a Vegas game and it's 90-0, we're joking about something silly, and most of the fans, they don't have favorite players on those teams because nobody stands out more than any other.
Right.
I don't know. Nice. That's cute. You guys can
I mean,
share your
I
rings.
gotta give you guys credit with the ass whooping that we were witnessing, that you guys were calling. You guys did your absolute best to try to keep the whole thing going, because I can absolutely tell 100% you guys are like, what do we even do? This, can we call the game yet? Like, this is just
Yeah,
what are we doing?
there's a certain level of fatigue that happens throughout the day, and then when we get the clunker that we get, it happened to be that way every friggin' week that I was on Games of the Week, right? And then it gets into the Cory Hammond roast fest. But then they're taking my time in the pocket, and it's 1.7 was one of my higher times. So that was fun. But I think before I get too off on a tangent, let's kind of just we got 2 games coming up in a week and a couple of days, right?
Yep.
And the 2 games are going to be among the best of the season. Not only because these are 4 of the top, I would say 5 teams in the league, definitely, and maybe the top 4.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe even the top. I would actually include BIC in there. So, excluding BIC, these are clearly for me the top 4 of the 5 4 of the 5 left. Chaos are kind of that odd man out, and if they surprise somebody, good for them. But for me, if you look, no, seriously, anything could happen. And the thing is about not having comparable tape is we don't know the level of athleticism that Keno has compared to the rest of Ohio. He could be that special, and if we see him do that against Vegas, then they're going to have a lot to say. I think that both teams are safe, but and I told Skylar Hurd, to his face about his own team. I think the Chaos defense is going to hold one of those teams to under 40. which is saying something. Both of those teams average approximately 60 points. But I don't think offensively the Chaos have enough to keep up with either of those offenses, because both of those offenses have design, both of those offenses have execution, and both of those offenses have playmakers that can make something happen when the design isn't there. The only thing that I've seen from the Chaos is that when the design isn't there, they have a quarterback that can run around, but a lot of times the design isn't there, and then he runs around, and then it's a touchdown, and then it looks like a great play call, and it's like,
That was actually one thing that I pointed out to Kay when I watched the Chaos. That was one thing that actually, like, yeah, credit to Thomas for making something out of nothing and scoring and doing all that kind of stuff. But when it became sort of consistent, I'm like, okay, that's actually a red flag to me. That's telling me the receivers are not getting open.
Well, no,
They're
I
not
think the
getting
receivers
separation.
They actually have some playmakers at receiver. I think the problem is that Keno Thomas himself is a receiver. He's most comfortable when he's running, and that's good to know when you're a player that you want to stay in your comfort zone. The problem is that the best quarterbacks in this league that are able to run, they'll use the threat of the run to get wide receivers open. And the way you do that is you keep your eyes downfield and you keep your eyes on the receivers. I have not once seen Keno, once it's that, panic mode, it's time to make something happen, I've never seen him look up to throw. I've just seen him run back and forth to find a lane. And when you were talking about 65 for the Volcanoes, he's not the only, Sterry started this thing he calls people security guards. My thing is some of the best players in our league, based on their size and strength and athleticism, are security guards. So what I call them is sanitation engineers, right? So when you got defensive lines that are full of sanitation engineers, there's plenty of seams once you run back and forth if you're a receiver. Don't laugh at sanitation engineers. That is do you know the type of medical benefits, the government benefits that some of those guys get, man?
It's because they have to. It's mandatory.
You don't have benefits.
Style of work, Jesus.
You don't have benefits given to you by your employer as good as fucking sanitation engineers. Maybe. I don't know.
No, sanitation.
No, yeah,
I know they've got more money than I can even count right now. I understand that.
But what I'm saying is that the sanitation engineers chasing Keno Thomas around are now home. They're going to be enjoying they're going to be enjoying the one dude from Ohio that will Facebook Live our live stream on his Facebook. So that's fun.
Oh,
I'm not mad at it because I think he had like 6 viewers, but it's like, you get the way that this works, right? Never mind. Because he doesn't, and that's okay. He'll figure it out.
Well, like I said, that was one of the things that we wanted to make sure. I was like, hold on, can we do so? And then Matt said, no.
Listen, you at least asked.
Yeah.
And shout outs to my guy, and he has a nickname over there. They call him Vanilla Vic because he's white and he's lefty, I guess. I don't know. But Vic is one of the greatest athletes to ever play the quarterback position in the history of humanity. So I was trying to figure out a better name for him, and I had a bunch of them, but the one that everybody liked the best was just Milk. So we're gonna go with that. So Milk. I mean, vanilla. White food substance milk. I don't know. Whatever. So when Milk is
where I wish Kay was here to hear that.
So I called them Blanco Bortles. What else did I call them?
Blanco Bortles.
I don't know. I had a bunch of other ones. I did research on
Milk. Okay.
Yeah. So it was the other ones were always different word for whitish, right? And then a bust quarterback.
That you like Whitey from Me, Myself, and Irene.
No, but
not
he actually that guy actually has more career wins than the ASAT. No, I was joking. Than me too. Then actually, well, not me, but me as me this season. Yeah. So, all right, we're getting off on these tangents, and I hope the audience has
That's
had
fine.
fun.
No. We love it.
But Insomniac's sick with it. You mentioned it, bro. And I'm gonna just say this, bro. I love you guys, but you're not allowed to have my favorite players on those individual features anymore. Because when you had Goose on, next fucking game, fucking Jaffo cursed him. And then my guy, Lavish T, Lord Tenyon Uzue, the sound Hashira, football breathing, first form touchdown. That's a Demon Slayer reference. Lavish is flashy, right? You don't watch Demon Slayer, do you?
I have seen. I see the clips and everything else like that because I know a lot of people who do.
Flashy, flashy. So test that one out. It's funny and awesome. But Lavish T goes on. So for me, the Lavish T. Oh, let me get.
Hold on, before you go, I understand the Demon Slayer reference. I understand.
What do you? Lavish likes that nickname.
Hey,
and
he's literally blaming us for the injuries of people who come on the show.
Twice, you guys have those special features.
It hasn't
the guys that
happened to
come
you?
on, the guys that come on the normal show, like the normal times, they're fine.
That's
No,
what you
I'm
mean.
just, but it's cool to have a curse associated with you because the other thing that has a curse is Madden. So
I don't want the curse for us to be
I will
fucking
tell any of
players
the
getting
players.
hurt. That
I'll
means
just,
we ain't gonna get players on.
no, I'll just refer you players, and then it'll work in everyone's favor. They'll be like, oh man, thanks, bro. You're like, you're welcome. No, but in all seriousness, not to make light of it, I think for that game, I was probably leaning towards the Insomniacs anyway. But now it's confirmed that Lavish is going to be out. It's a relatively serious injury. He's starting to kind of work through it, but he's not coming back. And for me, what Lavish does is not see the way that the Sick With It has been using him. They've been almost using him as just that new weapon role that they talk about when a team drafts a running back and they don't want to get crucified for drafting a running back. They say, oh, he's a weapon. Because Lavish, to me, isn't that, Anthony Wilkerson, bravado type of running back. He's not a pure running back. And when you put him out at wide receiver, he's just as good, if not better, than a lot of the other guys out there. So
I was going to say I would actually consider him a better wide receiver than I would a.
Well, what they did and what they do schematically with him is they put him from the backfield into motion, and they create a lot of mismatches that way. And using him that way has also caused a lot of miscommunications on the other parts of the back end of the defense, which have led to other guys being open or at least one-on-one coverage. So not having him, to me, it puts Sick With It in a position where, just like they used as an excuse, and all these teams have excuses, I love them. Just like they used it as an excuse because they were down to the force early, they were having to try new things out. They said, well, they've kind of relied on Lavish for the 3-on-1, for big plays, and as a threat with his explosiveness to open up things for other guys. They've not relied on it as he's their most important piece, but he's certainly one of the more important pieces, right? He's not one of those guys that's saying, I'm awesome at football. Your team sucks.
No, he was actually
play.
the opposite. When we had him on, he was actually extremely humble, very much the opposite of I'm gonna, no disrespect to Trey, but he was like where Trey was being like, everyone's we're coming for everybody, everyone's irrelevant.
Right.
Lavish was more the opposite end of I let my play do the talking type of thing.
And I would say that, in my opinion, the thing that Trey can bring to a team when he's fully invested, when he's all in, when he is one of the main drivers of the team, What Trey can bring to a team is actually, in my opinion, as much as I love Lavish, it's more hypothetically top end than what Lavish can bring to a team. But I'll ask you this, based on this season, who's brought more to their respective team? Lavish so far, and then obviously you can't anymore, but Lavish so far or Trey so far? Because my argument would be...
Oh, no, I would agree that if we're talking about
just impacts this season, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely Lavish because, like you pointed out, the Insomniacs are stacked to the point where again, I'm not gonna be the guy because I've seen Trey's game. I know he's more than capable of
That's why I
being
use
that
the qualifier,
top player.
right? I use the qualifier that I would say that he's already earned the reputation that he's one of those guys that when he is put in that role, he's able and capable of doing it. I would say that if you gave me just the attributes of the athletes, I would say that Trey Robinson is a better player just a little bit to have on your team, based on the utility, the ability that you can put him in the most important position, and he's able to do all those other things. Plus, I think that Trey does have a little bit more of that, football acumen than Lavish. Not that Lavish isn't, a smart football player, but Trey has been, top level of competition playing football his entire adult life. And he's got the ability to match it still. There's no question that Lavish has had more of an impact for his team this season so far than Trey. So, the thing is that Lavish could have come on and talked all the spice about how great his season is. He isn't that guy, but he also isn't the guy that is just talking shit and letting other guys do the bulk of the work.
Right. He's backing up the play. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's definitely that player. Like, and again, but Trey, like with his talk, and Kay made it a real good point. He came on our show and said that they were going to beat them by 70 points and call it a day.
Sick with it,
and that's exactly what they did.
Oh, yeah. Well,
so
yeah. If he was saying he was going to go home in the third quarter against the Kryptonite and OTT, then
no, he was saying against like the Sick with it too.
Okay, so Sick with it, yeah. So that's, I think, different, and I think the competitor in Trey, he knows that he's going to have a tougher test against Sick with it than he has against the other teams. But I think the point is that Lavish not being with Sick means that Sick now in the toughest game so far of their season, because even though they lost to the Insomniacs week 1, the Insomniacs weren't at full go week 1 either.
Right.
The Sick with it spotted them 14 points, and Insomniacs still were able to storm back. And the Insomniacs, with very little experience as a unit, they were able to convert more of the championship points. When we get into the toughest game of Sick with it season, and they're missing one of their top weapons, I think they have other guys in their roster that can step up. But again, it's a tough task to now have to change what you found out really works.
Well, I mean, we could look at it. We can look at it that way. We can look at it that way of, oh man, if Lavish is gone, so I'm kind of want to look. I'm tend to steering towards this right now. Maybe Lavish has just been that damn good to where it almost disguised how good the rest of the guys are.
Nah, that's not fair. No disrespect, and I don't think it's a horrible question to ask. But when you look at the guys that they have on Sick with it, just start with Darren Palmer.
And Palmer, yes. Palmer, yes.
When Palmer walks in front of you, you might not even know what position he plays, but you're like, yeah, that motherfucker's good at football. They got a
dribbling human being. Yes, he's that's.
And they got a wide receiver, Betts, too.
Yeah.
And what I like to see in a wide receiver is how he locates the ball. Because a lot of guys are fast. A lot of guys can do the destroy video type of routes where they're doing like triple moves and then the corner eventually bites, right? But locating the ball, high pointing it, catching it, getting your feet in bounds, making something happen after the catch. That's what I've seen from Betts, and I appreciate his game. Webster Spencer, who we do the British accent with, he's a pretty good player. I don't think he's the same level of third wide receiver as, let's say, Lavish or the third wide receiver on the Insomniacs would be, whoever you put there, because they're so stacked at that position.
Well, the reason why I actually kind of, and thinking about like the reason why I kind of put it that way is because when you listen to the broadcasting, when they're calling Sick-Witted games, there's a different way that they react towards Lavish than they react towards anybody else. That's why I'm saying, I don't want to say it's overhyped, because it's not overhyped. I know the quality of player he is. It's not overhyped. But for lack of a better term, they hyped it up too much to the point where it kind of masked the quality of team that they actually have. For it, like, they almost hyped it up in a negative aspect, to where they're not giving enough. That's why I'm saying, like, people are looking at it going, well, Lavish is down. I mean, hey, there's the Sick-Witted's done, because Lavish is down. Well, if you actually watch the team, you would probably know that that's not true.
Right.
But the way things are called, the way things are said, it puts Lavish in this almost godlike scenario on his team. Like,
I think
without
so
him,
you're
they do
saying the
nothing.
opposite. You're saying the opposite, that the excitement level of when Lavish makes a play takes away from the quality of everyone else on the team, because they're not necessarily. I always equate it to USC Reggie Bush, right? The feeling of you watching a football player, and anytime he has the ball in his hands, all of a sudden you're now like excited to see what happens. There's a handful of guys in our league, I think, that consistently you feel that about. Ashanti Worthy's one of them, right?
Yep, for sure.
Savion Cunningham feels like one, especially on the 3-on-1s, but when he's on offense against the better competition, it's not the same. But Savion Cunningham, I think, at times falls in that category. But Lavish T obviously always does. And I think it's a 3-on-1 too, because a lot of the guys, when they approach the way that they do the 3-on-1, they do the hesitation for move first and then put on the change of speed. That's not Lavish. Lavish decides that as soon as he catches the ball, he's going to run full speed. And if you get in his way, he's been in the gym 16 hours more than you that week, and your arm is going to be bruised because you're not willing to put your shoulder down, and an arm tackle is not going to stop him. So that level of explosiveness, I think there are guys on Sick-Witted that can give you that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we consistently feel it as fans. And I was there the fall championship when he was returning it for the pit bosses. You could feel the excitement.
Oh,
my wife called me. I told her, I said, "Do not call me. I'm about to do the show." So for me, the loss of Lavish is huge for the way that they schematically approach, the way that they attack the Insomniacs defense. Now she's calling an office line. Look at this.
Okay, you there right now?
Yep, gotta do what you gotta do, son.
While Cory's getting that handled, we just wanted to let you guys, this is the All Pro JAFFOs highly elevated sports talk for the highly elevated sports fan. This episode is also helped brought to you by Mountain Mike's Pizza the way it ought to be. If you're talking with Cory Hammond of the A7FL 3-on-1 podcast, breaking down the playoffs and everything that's been going on so far throughout this whole road to the national championship over in Bullhead City, Arizona. Wait, how did this?
I'm
I was
back.
gonna say, how did that happen that way? Where it went? Okay, there you go.
It's always something. So Lavish out.
Yep.
I think the game rests on, for me, if Sickwit's defense is able to honestly stop Insomniac's run game, right? If their defensive line and the one linebacker, and they can kind of put more like 4 in the box, maybe maximum 5 if there's a double tight end. But if they can put 4 in the box and stop the run game most of the time, then Sickwit can maybe hang and they could probably win. You know, they have a cornerback out there, and Justin Shepard. You know, everybody does that seatbelt. Well, I've seen him lock some pretty talented wide receivers down for, you know, a good portion of games. And you know, the one thing is that I think both of these quarterbacks specifically, and there's like 6 of them that play for both teams, but I'm talking about the starters. But all of the quarterbacks, they've faced a lot of real easy, you know, clean pockets, plenty of time type of offensive sets. And if Sickwit can put pressure on the pass game by stopping the run and not allowing the easy play action and getting some pressure on whoever's playing quarterback, that's really where the game lies. So even though for me, the Lavish loss takes the ability for Sickwit to be as explosive as they possibly could be away,
that doesn't mean they can't pull off.
Well, what I think the game rests on is that Sickwit defense.
Yeah.
And for all that we've talked about Sickwit, the one thing that we don't consistently mention is that we're impressed with their defense. But that could be a commitment level thing, because, you know, when you're winning games 92-30 or whatever.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's almost gotten to the point where we haven't necessarily been giving the defenses for Sickwit and the Force, and even the Insomniacs, we haven't necessarily been giving them that much high praise because these scores have been so wild and the talent has been so obviously lopsided. You can't really judge a defense based on that. You know, so it's kind of like
it's hard to get an accurate read,
right? An accurate read.
Right.
Sorry.
So we could judge them. We could say this. We could try to imagine, but we're gonna find out real soon. You know, we're not gonna find out in a couple of days, but we're gonna find out in a week, in a couple of days. That's for sure. And for me, when I look at the Insomniacs roster, a lot of people are going to talk about all the skill position players. And I think, to a man, I think everybody would agree that whether it's the quarterback position, the wide receiver position, the running back position, the Insomniacs have that level. And when they take their one guy out and they put another guy in, you know, they're replacing like for like. But that's not really the reason why they're, to me, maybe the favorites left in the entire league. The reason that they're, to me, one of the favorites and their offense is so great is because their offensive line allows those guys to be able to show what they can do.
Right.
And their offensive line is led by a former Nebraska starting offensive lineman in Kenny Mack, Nightmare X. I call him, he wants to be called Shan Wu from Mulan. So to honor him, I've been calling him the Great Wall of China. But I've been calling him Toshinori Yagi, which is another anime reference, and Country K will fill you in, All Might. Because I say that he sends non-playable character Nomu into orbit And if you watch the show, that's really kind of, this is the first season, so you don't have to watch too many episodes, Jay. But you'll like the show.
No, I'm with you.
My guy, and whatever, he doesn't necessarily look like All Might, whatever, that's fine. But he launches dudes in the orbit, and that's, to me, what I always want to say is when I see he is here, right? But again, I'm having too much fun.
But so Cory, when we get to this point, that we're in this point of the playoff run now, where yes, the door does kind of seem like it's pretty wide open. Patterson U is the only New Jersey team left to basically defend the honor of the Northeast.
Or New Jersey.
Watchmen are hungry. Vegas is absolutely hungry. I mean, just by talking with Derek right now, and shout out to him and stuff, and even Big Rob gave the props where it's due, because Derek has done a whole hell of a lot of work for the Nevada division for them to get to this point. So I feel like when you're mentioning the growth of the Nevada division, you can't do it without talking about Derek Duncan's contributions to the entire thing.
Yeah, the growth of the Nevada division has a name. And the name of the growth is Derek Duncan. And it's not like you got to go to the doctor growth. So, but it is Derek Duncan. The growth is him. And it's those players too, but it's led by a guy who sees the vision, believes in it, and lives it. And yeah. I appreciate that because, for better or for worse, I kind of live this shit.
Yeah. I mean, you do. You guys have invested in a ton of time. You guys have invested your bodies. You guys have invested a lot in what I know probably never, the original thought was never to get to this point. It was just something that y'all kind of did to where it is now. Like, you guys have done a lot. So it like, don't ever sell you guys yourselves short in that aspect. But when I look at it now, I feel like Nevada has grown quicker than the East expected. When I talk to Derek, I kind of puts in my head, because he talks about the fall brawl, and it registered into my head going, yeah, the East may not think of the fall brawl because, again, it's not the championship. It's not something that they would necessarily play for. But for the growth of that division, it was absolutely necessary for that to happen, to develop a culture, to develop some, like, the way things were going to go down. The TV deal, everything that they have, that they're featured in out there in Vegas, wouldn't be where it is if it wasn't for that fall brawl. So there's things that in place that, yeah, if you're on one end of the spectrum, you can look at it in a different way. But in reality, for the growth of the league, for the growth of that division, it was 100% necessary. And I think it was underplayed to the point where I don't think the East realizes Nevada might be a little bit better than you guys think.
Well, the conversation that those guys talk about is they'll reference the Facebook live shows in which the players get on and they do their Big Rob impersonation. Very few of them probably do a Cory Hammond impersonation, but all of them want my job and think they can do it better.
I mean, technically, with the shit talking, it's Cory Hammond-esque. But with the Big Rob, it's more of like,
I use 3-syllable words. They say ass and suck a lot. So
the only reason why, like, the Big Rob impersonations are off on me, because Big Rob has, like you mentioned, has earned his right to talk the way he talks. He's played in the league, he's won championships, he's been there, he's done it, since the beginning to where it is now. He's earned his, but when he talks, it's not necessarily like, you can't look at it as if he's like trying to take a shot at the league. He's trying to take it as realistic as possible. But I'm looking at,
he's also a show me guy, right? And
yes, very
and calling the games, he has the opportunity when he has a game in front of him. He says, "All right, show me." And guys have not shown him, and he will say, you showed me that you're ass. And when he's seen somebody ball out, he says, he showed me something. And that's fair. That's a fair assessment.
Yeah. Right.
I think a lot of the guys that go on those posts and go on those lives and go on the Facebooks and things, and they have a lot to say, and it's F Vegas, Vegas can S D's and all kinds of shit, right?
Cory, wait, okay, hang on. You say SDs and all of that, and then you say shit directly afterwards. Why do you feel the need to censor yourself right now?
I'm censoring them. I don't censor myself. I censor when I air quote someone else, because I don't want to put words in their mouth that are not suitable for children's ears. I'll take fucking responsibility for my own fucking words, but they say F this and S and D Vegas and right.
Got it.
But those guys, some of them even have earned the right to have an opinion like Rob does, because based on what they've done in the league. But you know what they haven't done that Rob's done is actually watch the film. I've been saying when I went out there for the fall championship, I told everybody that, and this was my take, and you can go and find it. I said it on your show. I said it on our show. The level of talent in Vegas from the skill positions is relatively equivalent to what you would get on the top ends of the Northeast or anywhere else. It's their defensive line and their defensive schemes that I think didn't work for me. And I think as a division, their trench game as from team 1 to team 8, team 1 to team 10, including the 2 California teams, their offensive lines are horrendous. And a lot of those defensive lines are built with the stereotypical, all right, I'm dancing around it. The TBS defensive line, which is not always best suited for the types of quarterbacks and the types of offensive game plans we see from the teams in this league, even the bottom teams.
Right.
So when you got 3 guys on the defensive line that are 3 Bills and are not chasing anybody, who are sanitation engineers and who are struggling just as much with the offensive linemen's blocking as they are with their own pants staying up around their gut, those guys are getting absolutely scorched and do not represent well on what you would expect from the defensive lines that are elite.
Right.
Or the offensive lines that are elite. Or most importantly, in my opinion, those defensive linemen, they cannot chase down the Sterry Codrington-esque guy.
Ooh, no.
And you might as well be playing with 4 friggin' guys on the field if 3 of them can't chase down the guy that has the ball in his hands every single play. Now, having a defensive line like the Watchmen have is a good counter to what the U have built. So I think to put a bow on Vegas, I've never once disrespected anything other than the depth of competition in that division. Because my whole thing was when our show, and I said this in our pre-shows because we were talking about the top 10, when our show said net points is how we rank you, and for some reason all the teams cared where we ranked them, the next week teams started blowing teams out. No morals, no heart, no respect for anybody's children. And it was bloodbath after bloodbath after bloodbath. So, Vegas, the thing is that they're not going to face a tough they're not going to have a competitive game other than this weekend until they face somebody in the championship. And that's a dangerous proposition. Just ask BIC what it's like to have 6 weeks off from facing a tough opponent and having to turn it up against one of the best teams in the league. And I'm sorry, Samuel. I know I've offended you by some of the things that I've done today, but so, you missed a beautiful point, Jay. So you're gonna have to watch on the rewatch. But I think as my wife is about to enter my house from a hard day's work at the Asbury Park tattoo convention, at Jess Ham Tattoos, you could go and give her a like on Insta, Face, and Chat and Snaps and Talks. The other game, not this Sunday, happy Father's Day to everybody, but next Sunday, I think is such an interesting matchup based on the actual matchups, not just the names of the teams and the shit that they've been talking, but the actual schematics that you bring into a game. Because when you look at the U and what they did to BIC in the regular season and in the playoff game last week, the U's offensive line has been built to block a defensive line as good as BIC. And I'll say this, we talk about guys showing up, right? The Watchmen, how did they do against the U in the regular season this year?
They won.
You know who wasn't there for the U? The offensive line that we saw in both games against BIC and in the regular season in the playoffs. So the Miller brothers, Deshaun Johnson and Dot Boss at tight end, that wasn't the line that was blocking for Moon and for Carlos Crosland against the Watchmen. So that might be, and it's a shame that we don't have Rob on here. You know, an MVP candidate, when you look at the U, would you disagree by saying that number 76, Deshaun Johnson, is actually an MVP level candidate?
I mean, with the amount of
going off, he really be going off for real.
Yeah,
goes off for real.
He seals that edge in a way that you can clearly see that it makes the job of the running back easier.
Exactly.
And some of those blocks, the fact that he's bringing, you know, all A7 level linemen out of bounds, like he's escorting them out of the club after, you know, being too, you know, drunk, or like he's a nanny, like he's the nanny in that show about all those bad kids, and he's taking one of those 6-year-olds by the ankle and just bringing them into timeout.
I was gonna say The Blind Side, like Michael Orr, but that's a good one too.
So, yeah, it's basically the same thing, but that's a direct football reference. So that's basically, you know, apples to apples what we're doing. You know, a Division I, you know, pro level type of talent guy, escort and security guards off the field. So that is what we saw, and I think that was the biggest, you know, determining factor in both of those BIC games for the U. But if you look at what the Watchmen have, they have the size and strength of defensive line and linebackers in a guy named Beefy LaPierre. And his name's Beefy for a reason, but he's an athlete. He plays tight end for them, and he's one of their more dangerous pass threats when he plays offense. They got a guy in Nick Mays that he's named Mean Machine, and he was one of the most important players on the Gators championship run in 2018. And then they got a guy, Freight Train, who, if you saw
anybody with the name Freight
me,
Train, yeah.
If you saw the highlight he put on me, you know, he had me, you know, parallel to the ground like he was an Undertaker putting me in a fucking coffin. So that's some of their defensive linemen. And then Ricardo Freeman, who he doesn't like being called his government. I don't know why, but, you know, Baltimore always says I'm a narc, so my bad. But the Wolverine is one of the, if not the best run stopping linebackers with tenacity, like a level of meanness that you love from a linebacker, but also like exceptional instincts. You know, that to me is the matchup that I'm going to be watching, because the Watchmen defense, and you had DK Butcher on, the Watchmen defense had the U's number, but the U didn't have their same offensive line. So when we look at that side of the ball, it's going to be interesting. And then for me, it comes down to if the game is really tight and it's the fourth quarter and the Watchmen need a drive, it goes back to me, and Matt was advocating it. Rob says that, I'm too biased and I can't have an opinion on it and be honest. But when you have two starting quarterbacks, do you really have one? Or do you have a question that you don't know the answer to unless, something is proven in the negative for one of those guys?
So I look at it that there's two ways of looking at it here. There's yes to yours and there's yes to theirs. If you happen to have that one guy who can do it all, Sterry Codrington, Huff, then the idea, you can do it with one quarterback system and everything. That I get that, but in other, how rare is it to find that type of talent? So it gets to the point where if you're some teams, you have to look at what you have and go, okay, we've got two guys that are really elite at doing these separate things at quarterback. When we are in a situation where we need to use one of those skills, we have the guy to be able to do that.
But
of course, you would love to have just one guy to do it all.
But is that the Watchmen though? Because the Watchmen have John Gauze, Ace Boogie, who is the Gators quarterback from 2018, who is one of the only quarterbacks in this league that has a championship. And he was the sole guy on that team. And then you have OG Buck, who we talk about all the time.
Who I believe is one of those players that can do it all. Personally. I feel like he's one of those guys that can handle it, but they do have, again, so, I mean, in some cases I can agree. I don't understand why you wouldn't want to stay one QB. But again, I'm not the play calling. I don't know if it's working for them. Who the fuck am I to tell them how to run it?
And I think that's the important thing, right? Is when it's working, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And that team in the Watchmen is a combination of the Gators, who's the Gators quarterback, Ace Boogie, and the Rare Breed, whose quarterback was OG Buck. Now, when everything's going great, everybody's kumbaya, and there's a Facebook picture going on. They're doing rock, paper, scissors to see who gets the start in a playoff game against Huff. But if one of those guys is making mistakes or isn't necessarily producing, and they go with the other guy, and it's a tight game, and the U maybe goes up, how are those Gators players going to respond to the Rare Breed guys saying, nah, John Gauze is not the answer, Buck's got to go in? Or the opposite, if Buck makes a mistake and it's his turn to go in, what are the Rare Breed guys going to do if the Gators guys are saying, nah, John's the quarterback, we got to win this game, he's the better guy? That conversation, who's best, if it's happening during a game in the heat of the moment when guys are in the heat of battle. And I actually do have to go, guys, so I'm just going to leave you with this, and hopefully it's good talking point for you guys.
Oh no, absolutely.
What's the better situation? Figuring it out on the fly when you have a bunch of guys loyal to each of those guys that are trying to kumbaya this and make it work in the most important game of the season. They still haven't figured it out yet. Or is it better to know who that guy is and have that guy be in charge of all, if not, the lion's share of the possessions? Because if they're that much better than the teams that they play, which has been the case, the amount of possessions that you mess up isn't important. But at this level of the playoffs, if one of those guys or both of those guys start messing up one or two or three drives and they make a mistake, or they're not, fully on target, or whatever the situation is, Are they
It
going to
might
have enough?
mess up the chemistry.
Well, are they going to have enough drives to figure out who that guy is against the team in the Patterson U that shortens the game with a power run game and whose defense has never been questioned as one of the top units in this league? But it's an interesting question for that game, and I think that's what's going to decide it for the Watchmen. Is if they can make this work, then what do I know? But if they get in a situation where it's tight and they don't have that answer, kind of figured out before the time to make the decision is upon them, they might have played this entire season to be in the same exact spot that both of those teams were last year, in the Final Four-ish, ready to go to the next level, and losing to New Jersey again.
I mean, this whole thing has been, a whirlwind. There's a lot of conversations to, being had. I'm glad we've been able to kind of, you know, he had to really go, ladies and gentlemen. Damn, he had a jet. That's, ladies and gentlemen, the always great Cory Hammond. Again, hearing all the different points from everyone that we've talked to, different sides, the different conversations, we're starting to get an idea of how everything is sort of playing out. And it's funny because one side says one thing, the other side says another thing. There's like the counter arguments and everything else like that. But it really does bring in perspective. And Kay, I want to see what you think about this. Are you more on the side of where Derek's like, well, if you're already making your excuses and stuff like that now, it's like, what's the point really? Or are you more on the kind of the big Rob side of, oh yeah, if there's going to be an asterisk on it because we don't know if we'll be able to get that many players out there. Because Derek was very clear that, if that's the case and that's going to be their argument, then that's on their GMs and everybody for not being able to make it happen. So where do you fall on that?
I mean, to be honest with you, yeah, them boys, they knew what the situation was. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of them boys knew what the situation was. So I might be on Derek's side. I'm like, shit, y'all knew what time it was. Like, it's not like y'all just found out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you knew what the potential, you know what I'm saying, potential thing might be with going to Ohio. You know what I'm saying? If you get in this position, you know what I'm saying? They told them in the beginning. So, right, that's.
But I mean, I also look at it because I'm really trying to look at it as I understand what Derek's saying, but I was also understanding what Big Rob was saying in the fact of, yeah, they could have been able to make the travel accommodations and everything like that happen. But if certain work situations or whatever, even regardless of the amount of time that if something happens and that person can't make the trip, it doesn't really matter what accommodations you provide, they can't make it. That's just the fact of it. So if that's the case, to where it's you know, they have the means to make it, but if certain individuals can't make it due to whatever circumstances, that could hinder the belief. But I am also on the side of Derek going, and like you were saying, you guys knew what it was. You guys knew what what it was going to take and everything to prepare for this moment. And if you were going to actually, if we're talking about the East, if you guys are going to back up what you've been saying this whole time, that the East is really the king, there's nobody better than the East and everything else like that, why would now be the time to where you would pull up the, it's whatever attitude? Because that kind of tells me it's that's a mask for shit. We're actually kind of worried. I mean, I kind of look at it going like they should be doing whatever it is possible to be fucking defending their name, defending their brand, defending their side, of the A7FL, the forefathers, if you will, of the A7FL. You would think they would want to defend that name, especially in a point in history of the league where this is the most exposure that the league has had ever. So why wouldn't you want to put your team and everything like that on the map? Why would you now all of a sudden adopt the it's an asterisk mentality? I kind of like what Derek said. They're already preparing their bailouts.
You voted me to a fucking. I'm reading a message from my coach. My bad.
All good. But I don't know, man. I just know it's going to be exciting as fuck. It's going to be very interesting when we get there. Honestly, I can't wait, man. This whole build up, I don't know how you feel about it, but like this whole build up to the entire thing and being able to talk with everybody and get the whole mentality of the whole thing. This shit's fun. This shit is absolutely awesome to be watching. So like anybody, if you guys haven't been paying attention um to the A7FL, I don't know why you haven't. Um Matt Ryan says it all the time. It's the longest running spring football league in the country, and they put out a good product. It's. I mean, obviously, you can't have the expectations of, oh, we need to have NFL caliber talent doing this. Like, obviously, you got to see it for what it is. And if you're going to go in with those expectations, then you know what? Just don't even watch, because then you're going to be a stupid critic who doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. But if you actually watch it and enjoy it for what it actually is, this is an incredible product that I've been really happy to be able to um cover and watch grow. And I really, to be honest, we got to thank Country K here. You were the one who really put everything on about this whole thing. From the like I don't remember but was it before episode 100? It was early on when you were already mentioning.
You talking about the league?
Yeah.
Early, yeah.
Like it was real early on when you were mentioning it. So it's kind of like to see from that where it's kind of gone and to learn more about it by talking to everybody that we've talked to. It's pretty wild, man. It's pretty wild. 1 month away, or a little over a month away, for the A7FL Championship. This week everything is off. Next week the Southwest Championship, the Insomniacs versus the Sick With It, and then the Northeast Championship between the Watchmen and the U. The winner of that game plays the Tampa Bay Nightcrawlers. Winner of the Insomniacs and Sick With It play the Sin City Chaos out in Ohio. One thing I didn't get to ask Cory were his thoughts about why the Northeast Championship has to also be in Ohio, and that's not even in their conference. Like, why wouldn't it be somewhere in like at Asbury Park? But that again, it is what it is right now, and you got to play the cards you're dealt. But we're deep in the playoffs now. It's looking extremely interesting, and honestly, man, I couldn't be more excited for this trip. I'm counting down the days, man. Like, I'm looking at the calendar, just like, nah, we'll mark that day. Hell yeah, let's go. Mark that shit on the calendar.
Yeah.
So if you got,
I'm not there yet, just specifically Well, simply, I'm not specifically. I meant simply. Fuck, my mind's getting scrambled. That shit kind of pissed me off a little bit, but nah, fucking specifically because I have this playoff game tomorrow.
Which I will be there for.
So once we win that game, we move on to the championship. So
you're in a different mentality right now. You're looking at actually playing. I'm looking at
you're in your fandom right now. I'm still
different perspective, yes.
Right, yeah. So I'm kind of you know what I mean? Like kind of locking in, you know what I mean, already.
Excited but focused.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm locking in right now, bro.
Yeah. I don't know, man. That was kind of hurtful. But I understood what he meant because when it happened, I actually thought the same exact fucking thing. He said when we have players on days that aren't the scheduled podcast, the next game they've gotten hurt. It happened with Goose, and now it happened with Lavish. So I'm starting to think we need to do the best we can to make sure that players, active players, if they're going to be talking with us, it needs to be on the regularly scheduled programming.
Or we schedule people, start scheduling people like way early in advance. And if they have to do it on an off day, we send them a care package, like a prehab care package. Make sure you're well iced up, stretched, you know what I mean? Shit like that. Cause we trying to break this fucking curse.
It's like I'm trying to let you know what has happened.
I'm not gonna say curse, break this image of a curse.
Do this at your own risk.
No, fuck that. Use all of this before your next game. Prehab care package, ice packs, a roller, you know what I mean? A yoga video and a yoga mat and a towel and an empty water bottle, empty Gatorade water bottle. Use all of this shit. Make sure you hydrate. You use this, you fill up this Gatorade bottle. We got to give them specific notes on the Gatorade bottle for a gallon. You have to drink this bottle X amount of times per day. Like, make sure you're hydrated, make sure you're well stretched, make sure you're everything,
Because I was gonna say 2 times it's a coincidence. 3 times it becomes more traditional.
That's why this next person we have on, we gotta send them a pre-hab care package to remove the image of that shit. You gotta understand, you're at 2. You're at 2, so yeah.
First backs are out.
Yeah, that I don't necessarily say that. I'm gonna just say this prehab care package would help.
Well, I say out because at that point, if it happened a third time, I would actually be like, "Oh, could you do it? Wednesday or Friday?" The only day I can do it is that. Look, thank you. I respect your time, but I respect you too much as a human being, and I respect your career to allow you to come on my show on an off day because, shit's happened. I don't want it to happen to you. So unless you can get on a Wednesday or Friday, we'll talk then. Coaches, everybody else, cool. Off day, if that's what you guys want or if that's what you guys need, that's fine. But if you are an active player in whatever league, whatever program, whatever that you are in, like Kay said, ice up. We're going to need to have precautions on all of our invites. That would be hilarious, though, to be honest with you. That'd be a nice little, it wouldn't be hilarious that it happened. Let me make that clear. Wouldn't be hilarious that it would happen. what would be kind of hilarious is the fact that we would put it there and people would look at it going like, wow, they realize, what they've done and they're trying to amend for their sins. Oh man, I don't want that for any player. Like I really did feel bad. Like when I saw Lavish go down, I really felt bad. Like I didn't obviously I wasn't thinking like, oh, it's because he was on our show. I didn't think that until the day after.
What happened to Goose?
Goose has got, I mean, he gives a shit for Goose, but Goose ended up coming back and playing.
That's one then.
Yeah.
That's one in my book, sir. Mr. Hammond. I should have asked that when he was on it, but Cory, he was making, y'all guys was making pretty good points, so I didn't want to interrupt that. But yeah, Mr. Hammond, that's one. Your teammate came back, sir. You was able to throw him touchdowns. Nope, not taking that. I was Lavish, so we still at one. We good,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say that. That's still bad. I still don't. I don't want that to be a thing.
I mean,
one was temporary. The next one was permanent, or not permanent, but like season ending.
I got that, but I'm saying in the context of Cory's biodome, one, because you got to call it biodome, because nobody understands Cory World to the full extent.
The only person who knows that is Jessica, his wife. Which, by the way, I told Cory because he was telling me, he's like, yeah, I got to do. I just want to apologize and say I'm sorry to Jessica ahead of time. Thank you for allowing Cory to absolutely run away with time when it comes to being on a show. Appreciate you, Jessica, for holding it down. But again, with everything that's going on next week, I feel like Sickwood's playing. It almost feels like the Insomniacs are playing with an expectation to where the Sickwood is playing for something to prove. Like they have nothing to lose. They're the ones who are just all out. We need to absolutely show the world that we are better than this team. And I'm gonna be completely honest. The Insomniacs, for as good as they are, you take a little bit of a nap, you're gonna wake up finding yourself in a fucked up nightmare. So I just do not take. I again, this is probably one of the reasons why I actually like the Sick with it, because if Lavish is a representation of what the team is and everything else like that, I like what I see. Insomniacs, like, I like what I see there too. It's just a different way. It's more vocal, more confident, more, we do what we're gonna say because again, Kay brought it. That man said they were gonna drop over 70, and they did. Um, so it's two different ways of looking at it, two different styles. But if you're gonna pick Kay, who would you pick? Insomniacs or Stick with it?
I'm gonna go Insomniacs for the simple fact of they did lose one of their big weapons. I mean, in the confines of scheme, I understand there's other guys on the team and them guys pretty good, but Insomniacs coming more full strength. Their last game, they put up quite a bit of points and didn't lose nobody. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The Sickwood had a tougher fought game.
Well, not really. They actually beat the shit out of the Aces.
I got that, but I'm saying in the beginning, it was a little, then they took off. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Insomniacs just whooped their ass from the giddy up. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what
I think we kind of knew that was going to happen, to be honest.
But that's why I said it's just more of a more tougher fought game, especially when you lost a player.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of why, that's the realm of what I'm speaking on, at least in that effect. But yeah,
For
that's
sure.
kind of why I picked Insomniac if I had to pick a team out of those two.
I mean, it's not a bad pick. The teams are really, really good. But I mean, I'm kind of going with the underdog slash, you know, team I'm just gonna go with the sick with it on this one.
And don't get me wrong, I love their color scheme and they fucking jerseys. I'm gonna give it a whole 100. It's a soft spot in my heart because of my high school, but I love that orange and black. You know what I'm saying? There we go. But I'm gonna go ahead and pick the wolf with the goddamn dice.
Watchmen and the U. Cory made a good point. The U didn't have their best lineman during the game against the Watchmen, in which they lost.
Still
They do
mulling.
now.
I'm still mulling it over. Do you have a pick on that yet?
Fuck, I don't, dude. This is so fucking close. Like it's this is the toughest task for the U so far. Like the BIC, obviously that was a great game. That was a tough task, but that game is always like that. There's nothing new about that game. But when you're talking about the road to actually get to the championship, like if they can get by the Watchmen, then it's. I mean, shit. They have to play the Nightcrawlers after that, but that's going to be a like another dogfight. It. The question is, do the U have the stamina to fight that many wars? At what point does the, machine break down from the amount of damage that it takes on its path? You just got done with a war against the BIC. If you get by the Watchmen, that's going to be a war. But then you have a war against Tampa Bay coming too. It's and then when you get to the championship, assuming it's either the Insomniacs or the Sick with it, that's another war. So I mean, by far the U has the way tougher task. But it would be the most impressive, would it not? If the U went down that entire road, that entire gauntlet, and won the championship, I mean, talk about having bragging rights. That would just prove to everybody that one, the East is still on top, and two, the U is really nothing to be trifled with. There's no reason why nobody should have been asking for the U as well as the BI. I mean, when you talk about guys in the West, they talk about the BIC, yes, but I don't know how you forget about this Patterson U team. I don't know, but this team is something to behold, man. I mean, they're in Asbury Park.
Mm.
I don't know. Okay, this is tough.
I'll be honest. What was the score of the
For the Watchmen and the
Silk City? Yeah.
27-19. Hey,
That was a very tough game.
Yeah.
That was 7 points, but the other one came down to
Well, that was a game where
they
the Watchmen got a lot of their points late.
right.
Silk City was handling them early.
Right.
So
all right, let me ask you this. Did you watch that game?
nobody did.
Oh yeah, because I was the one that was blacked out because of Baltimore and the thing. Yeah, all right.
Mhm.
All right. Because yeah, Rob said it yesterday. Yeah, got it. All right, cool. I'm just piecing it together now because fuck.
So seeing that kind of makes me think, fuck, the U might have a good chance here. But because I didn't see the film, it's hard to kind of judge, you know what I mean? Like if we were to actually see the film, we'd be able to tell this, but because we haven't, it's hard. We know the quality of team Silk City is because, Huff is there.
I'm gonna go.
But I don't think the U gives up, that many points late in the game like that. The U will close it out well before they let that happen. It just. If the Watchmen allow the U to get up by 2 or 3 scores, it's fucking over.
Answer that. Just based on what happened last week.
Yeah, but that, like I said, that's a different. I feel, look again, and no disrespect to the Animals, but they're not as complete a team as the U are.
I got
They're
that.
just not. Even with Huff on the team, yes, but overall, the U are a way better team.
Yeah, but
So I don't see the U
I think
giving up a lead like that.
A big ass factor, and it just dawned on me right now. You're missing a big ass factor on the reason why this game is going to be just as tough, if not tougher than last week for Patterson. And it ain't got nothing to do because of the emotions between them and BRC. It's because the emotions of Baltimore and the reason why Baltimore is a team right now. The reason why they put together the super team, the reason why they doing all of that to go against New Jersey, which Patterson is a part of. So the Watchmen probably looking like, yeah, we got to whoop that ass for Baltimore. And Patterson already know how they coming. So I might have to just pick Baltimore on this one, bro. I think I'm going with B-Mo on this one. I really want to pick Patterson, though. I like the only
because that's the team that kind of got you on, isn't it?
Nah, BIC was actually because
BIC was.
I saw Ashanti Worthy's highlights. I was like, who the fuck is this Hollywood dude?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And he was just fucking killing that shit. And I was like, what the fuck? Then I started seeing, I'm like, oh, they got a team out there like Miami? Hell yeah. And I started watching their games. But the real reason why I started watching the league was seeing highlights of Ashanti Worthy. You get what I'm saying? So
I hope Ashanti Worthy still shows up to the championship game. That'd be cool.
To be able to interview him, yeah, that would be.
That would be nice.
We'll see what's going on. But yeah, I'm gonna go. I ain't gonna. God dang it, nah.
This is tough.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Nah. Nah, I'm gonna go with Patterson, bro. I'm gonna go with Patterson.
This is it's fun, but it fucking sucks because it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard, but at the same time, I'm like, the reason why I'm picking these boys, because I really was talking myself out of my own argument when I was talking
I was
for.
going to say, were you relying on nostalgia to get you out of it?
No, I was thinking of no, I mean the last game I saw from Baltimore, which was a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? So I was really kind of looking at that, thinking about it. I'm like, oh God, this film's terrible, but you know what I mean? We was watching it best we could. You get what I mean? So I was going off of that and the fact of what pretty much the recap of the game you just said was last week. When they're down, they fought back. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And an emotional game like that, they would fight back if they were down. I don't know if 2 scores will put them away though. If you gonna steal somebody away, you got to be 3 or more.
Well, that's why I said if you get up 3 scores,
3 or more. It might be even have to be 4, just simply because. Yeah, bro, they gonna be playing hard. Like I'm telling you, they're gonna be playing for their whole little situation they got going in Baltimore. Try to validate what they got going. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, cause you remember we was talking to Buddy. You know what I'm saying? So, and you know what I mean? They really trying to hold it down for the city, so it's hard. Like, yeah, I'm probably just gonna pick Patterson, but I don't feel comfortable with my pick. I'm be honest, I feel very uneasy.
Well, I wouldn't feel comfortable picking either one. I really don't. Like I said, this is just one of those tough ones that just it's pretty ridiculous, but it's going to be an action-packed game. It's going to be awesome. 2 weeks away. You know, can't wait. There's a lot of things that are going to happen from now until championship weekend. But until then, it's going to be fucking great. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with us on this Friday night. It was a loaded day. CJP talking with Derek, Duncan, Cory, Hammond. We appreciate all 3 of them for giving some time out of their busy schedules for joining us. We appreciate you guys for hanging out. Thank you all for hanging out with the All Pro JAFFOs. Highly elevated sports talk with a highly elevated sports fan. For myself, JP, for the 610 East and Southeast, Mr. Country K. We will see you guys next time. Deuces. Oh shit, that's right. Hold on.
I'm sorry. I know you had your ending monologue. I didn't want to interrupt, but I was like, God damn it. Let me hurry up and try to press this button before he finishes. Yeah, man. Hey, look. Again, if you guys do not have anything going on in the Sacramento area, or if you're coming to the Sacramento area at any point in time, tomorrow, you know what I mean, Saturday, June 17th at 5:30, because they moved it up 30 minutes. The team is with the fucking extra. I don't want to get too graphic, but they with the bull crap, you know what I'm saying, Josh? So, at 5:30. Yeah, they're trying to throw us off, bro. Yeah.
You'll be fine. You guys will be all right.
I know that.
So 5:30?
5:30, yes, sir. So game's at 5:30. So guys, come check it out. It's gonna be a hard fought game. Basically the Battle of Sacramento. So yeah. You know what I mean? And it's 1 versus 4. And this game is to play to go to the championship game, playoff game. So guys, please, please, please come check it out. Make sure you guys also tune into the A7FL this weekend on the live streams on the Zone and on YouTube.
Not this weekend. Not this weekend. Next weekend.
Is next weekend?
Yeah, next weekend.
Okay, next weekend. Shit, yeah, I fucked up. And I gotta probably take down them posts. All right, cool. Yeah, so next weekend, yeah, on the Zone and or on YouTube, if that's how you feel it. Make sure you check out the A7FL. There's gonna be some pretty good games, guys.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Happy Father's Day, everyone. Happy Juneteenth, everybody. We will see you guys next time on Wednesday. Deuces.